Hi, and welcome to my channel, Laura's Library Card. So it's time for my February wrap up. I was pleased with how much I read in February. I finished 12 books, which was a total of 3,241 pages. I definitely did better on the diversity factor in February and still read kind of widely across genres, but I don't really track my genres, and sometimes I find it kind of hard to figure out what genre a book fits in. So I wasn't going to list that stat. And I did not tally up any author totals, but I have a variety of types of people, writers involved. So I'm just going to dive right in. I'm going to try to kind of point out other videos if I've mentioned books in other videos and give brief summaries and thoughts on each of these books. So I actually don't think that these are in perfect like reading order, but we're just going to go. This is the order I wrote it down in. So in February, I read The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This was the Sugar and Spice Book Club choice for January, but the meeting was like the first couple days of February, and I actually read this in February. So The Simple Wild is about Calla. She is our main female character. I think it's only single point of view, and she goes to Alaska from her home in Toronto, question mark. She goes to Alaska because she has found out that her estranged father is ill, and so she kind of wants to find out a little bit more about her past and what happens, why he's not actively in her life anymore, and this is kind of her last opportunity potentially to get to know her dad. And so she goes to Alaska. She is sort of this like socialite. She cares about her getting her hair and nails done. She's sort of like this prissy, Instagram filter kind of girl. And then she lands in this like remote part of Alaska and is just surrounded by these sort of much more down to earth people. And this is a romance. And so, of course, our male lead is Jonah, and he is like gruff and live off the land kind of down to earth guy, and so it's very like opposites attract. But honestly, I felt like Jonah kind of like verged on that like bully romance level. Like he like played pranks on her that were kind of mean, and he just judges her left, right, and center for all of her ways that are just different from him, and he just views her as like super princessy and prissy. And that I really did not like Calla at the start of this book, and for the first like half of the book I really was just not jiving with it. I just was like, you know what, like Calla is annoying, she's prissy, she's like, but my hair, oh my god. And I was like, who cares? I did not like her. I felt like she had no personality, and the whole time she was just like, I can't wait to get out of Alaska. Ugh, this place is gross. And she was like Alexis from Schitt's Creek, but not likable in any way for me personally. And then Jonah, like I said, I felt like he kind of bordered on that like bully romance. I just didn't like feel that connection between the two of them. I did feel like the last third or so of the book got better. Our characters kind of had some time together where they were sort of in forced proximity, and then there was like intimacy. And so I definitely had started out thinking it was a YA, and then it turned mature. So that part was fun to read. But I did feel like there was a lot more that happened in the last 30% as Calla starts to kind of actually bond with her dad and kind of like come to terms with what his illness means for her own life. And I wouldn't say she like turns her whole life all around. And I was really expecting the like city girl goes to the country and then who cares about lip gloss? And that didn't really happen. It happened to like a small extent, but she didn't just like suddenly like become a pioneer and be willing to move to Alaska at the end. So I guess that's kind of a spoiler that she doesn't stay in Alaska at the end, but whatever. So I like this contemporary romance. For me, it was really only like a 2 or 2.5 star until the end, and that pulled it up all the way to like a 3.5 star. So I don't know that I want to continue reading the other books in this series because it is it does continue in at least one more, if not two more books. But I didn't hate it, and I felt like it had a good ending. So that was my opinion on The Simple Wild. The next book that I finished in February was Oona Out of Order by Margarita Montimore. I did a whole book review on this book, and we'll link it up in the cards and down in the description if you want to check that out. But basically, it is a literary fiction book where our main character Oona is living her life out of order. Every year on her birthday, her consciousness kind of jumps to a different year of her life, and so she lives out that year like in her body in that year, but she is not living her years chronologically. So her consciousness is aging sequentially and normally, but she's jumping around, and every year she lands, she doesn't know what year she's in and has to kind of figure it out and figure out where she is in her life. I ultimately only rated that, I think, 2.5 stars. I had a lot of frustrations, which I kind of vent about a little bit in that book review. But the long and short of it is that I really just didn't care about Oona and felt like she made a lot of poor decisions, and her future consciousness that was living her life in years before Oona got there never helped her, and the people in her life didn't help her. So I had a lot of frustrations, and I felt like the book just really could have done a lot more interesting and did not. So I was frustrated with that book, and it was kind of a middle of the road, disappointing for me for my expectations going in. The next book that I finished in February was 15 Inches by Madison Faye. I can't find any information about this author, so I don't know anything about this author, but this was a erotic short story. And yes, that's all there really is to say about it. It's about a woman who sleeps with her fitness instructor after catching a glimpse of him in the showers. And the title of the book is 15 Inches. So yeah, the problem is that I don't read a lot of erotica, so it was hard to kind of evaluate this, and also I don't read very many short stories. So to read like an erotic short story, I'm not really sure how to rate this, but it was weirdly titillating and disturbing at the same time. For me, it just is not something that I particularly enjoyed. I felt like there was a couple different descriptions that were used that I just was like, that does not do it for me. One of them was his third leg. One of them was like a baseball bat. The other one was his monster. And to me, none of those things are like appealing or was like, oh. So yeah, I ultimately gave 15 Inches 2 stars. I would potentially try out something else by Madison Faye, but this one was not necessarily my cup of tea, and I don't know if that was because it was pure erotica, or if it was because it was a short story, or if just because it was what it was, and that was not for me. The next book that I finished was Top Secret, which was written by Sarina, Bowen, and Elle Kennedy. I think I heard about this book in a number of different spots. It just sort of kept coming up. But most recently I saw that it was a book recommended by Jess from Books Past Bedtime to Manda at Ginger Snap Reads. Top Secret follows Luke and Keaton. There are a lot of tropes in this book. It is a male-male contemporary romance. The premise starts off that Keaton is trying to find another person to bring in for him and his girlfriend to have a threesome for her birthday. And so he's anonymously messaging this guy, sort of vetting this stranger to see if this person might fit to be a partner for this like event that he's planning for his girlfriend's birthday. And then sort of over the course of the book, he and his girlfriend end up kind of splitting up for other reasons, and he continues to talk to this guy that he is like messaging through the app, and then they start a relationship. And he had not realized that the person he's messaging is actually like his rival. Luke is like, there's a lot of like opposites attract, rich versus poor, has versus has nots in this book, and there's like, it's a secret relationship, but Luke is also like running against Keaton for the fraternity presidency. So I really enjoyed it. I felt like all of the setup where the two characters are messaging each other anonymously, sort of like to feel each other out and see if this could be a good fit. They also like share a lot about each other, and they're able to be vulnerable with each other because they think it's because it is an anonymous like messaging. So I felt like a lot of the setup for getting to know you and the development was there, and that's like what I want in a romance. So yeah, I really appreciated Top Secret. I do feel like there was other elements to the story that helped bring conflict, and it wasn't all internal. And slight vague spoilers is I really appreciated how after the bleak moment, the two characters were really respectful of each other, and they were both very like mature about how they handled things, and they both like took time to consider what they wanted to do. So I felt like that was handled really, really well, especially since these were, college guys, and I really liked Top Secret, and I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I read in February was, I think, my top read in February, which was Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I listened to this on audiobook. It's narrated by the author, by Jason Reynolds, and this was the choice for one of my real life book clubs, and we all really were pleased with this choice. The book is written in verse, and we follow Will as our main character. I think he's 15, and the whole book takes place pretty much while he's going down an elevator, and he is heading out to shoot the person that he believes shot his brother, who died like a night or two before this elevator ride. And on every level that he passes, the elevator stops, and essentially like a ghost from his past gets on, and then there's a conversation about like what he's doing and what that means, and about gun violence and gang violence and a cycle of violence and what the repercussions are. And this book was really amazingly powerful and impactful, and like not a single word was wasted. It was written in verse, so it goes by very quickly, but like there was still great turns of phrase that just like resonated really strongly. And I think Reynolds did a beautiful job in trying to portray like so much emotion in such short phrases and such a short book. And it really had a strong like message at the end, because it was just a really, really great book, and I gave it 5 stars, and everyone in my book club liked it, even though they were all a bunch of like old white people. And I was like, how is this discussion gonna go? It was mostly okay. But everyone was full of discussion about this book, and I felt really like sympathetic toward Will's position in a way that I had not fully realized I was going to when I thought it was about gang violence. But I definitely got like really teary-eyed, and thoroughly super enjoyed Long Way Down. Gave it 5 stars. Highly recommend you check it out. I am also participating in the Immortals After Dark read along, so I only managed to get through the next 2 books in February, which were number 4, Dark Needs at Night's Edge, and number 5, Dark Desires After Dusk. Both of those are by Kresley Cole. Number 4, Dark Needs, is the story of Conrad and Naomi. Conrad is a like fallen vampire. He has turned evil. He has killed people by drinking their blood. He, he's going mad or is already mad, and his brothers have sort of kidnapped him at the start of the book to try to heal him and see if he can get any better. And they are holding him at this house that is haunted. And so Conrad is sort of plagued by the memories of the people whose blood he has taken. And so he struggles to determine whether or not he is hallucinating and what is real versus not real. And he is seeing Naomi, who is a ghost, who is haunting this house that, was hers. And he struggles to determine whether or not she's real. And I was really interested about this because I thought, okay, how are they going to do like a ghost romance when she doesn't have a body, and can he see her? And I felt like it was handled very well. And it was very steamy because they can communicate, and and so there's a lot of phone sex kind of things happening where they're talking to each other but they are not touching, and it was very steamy. I very much liked it, and I felt like the resolution was very good for how it all works, and like yay magic, and I was pleased with the ending, and I felt like there was a undercurrent of darkness and desperation that I just really appreciated, and thought that this book was really strong. And then I think that coming after such a strong book, that's why I liked the 5th book just a hair less. I gave the 4th book a solid 4 stars, but ultimately I gave Dark Desires After Dusk only 3 stars. This one follows Cadian and Holly. Cade is a demon, and we've seen him just a little bit as like a peripheral character in previous books. He is brother to Rydstrom, who the 6th book is about that I am like currently reading. But Cade was implicated in Rydstrom's losing of his kingdom like centuries ago. And so Cadian has a chance to right that wrong. But the problem is that he has to like sacrifice his fated mate, Holly, our main female character, to make this happen. Like he can't have both. He has to either get the girl and then like fail his brother in his kingdom, or help get the kingdom like at the cost of her. And so that's sort of the setup. But for me, this was a like road trip romance, and it just was lacking in some conflict and tension. Holly thinks she's human, and we all think she's human at the start of the book, but very quickly it becomes apparent that she is Valkyrie or part Valkyrie. And even though she was like undergoing this transformation and or very new to the immortal life and supposedly like weak, and she has no background in fighting, like they have no problem, like every single foe that comes in front of them, they're just like "Meow," and they fight no problem. Especially her, she in particular is just kind of like, I took him out, no problem. So there was just like no, I really wanted more like tension and conflict. Like Cade should have been a lot more conflicted about what he was going to do. And the whole time he was just like obsessed with pursuing Holly and giving her pleasure, which like on the one hand is great because fated mates and gay men who care about their mates. But also like he just, every time he's like, oh yeah, that whole pesky betrayal thing, I'm just not going to think about that. And I'm like, okay, cool. And there was this like very subtle like possible cheating under subplot. This book just didn't do it for me. It's been my least favorite so far in this series, and so I only gave Dark Desires After Dusk 3 stars. Next I read Everything's Better With You, and this was kind of a hot mess. So the author is Lucy Eden. I think it was a novella. I think I talked about this in one of my other videos, maybe my Stack Status wrap up. But basically in this novella we follow Nate and Abby, and it is dual points of view, and it just, I don't think novellas like work great for me, and this one was not helpful in any way in changing that idea, because their meet cute was really adorable and I felt like the book started off really strong, but as soon as we switched to his point of view, he's been like watching her on the CCTV, and I'm like, creepy. And it just, all the vibes were terrible. It's insta love, and she's like heartbroken 4 hours after she meets him because he's engaged, but like it's not real engagement, and it just, then they're having sex and it's like 12 hours later, and there was just so many moments of like what's happening, and I did not appreciate it. I didn't find it sexy. He like looks at her like he wants to like eat her / maul her, and he's like, I have to rein myself in, but then also he looks at her so tenderly, and of course she's a virgin, and of course he has the magic penis, and it just, I will say the last chunk, like the last like maybe 30%, did kind of bring in this interesting family dynamic and tension, and that was sort of the plot for the second half of the book. So that was kind of interesting and brought it from a 1.5 to a 2 star, but for me it just was a not hot mess. So Everything's Better With You did not work for me, and I don't think I'm going to continue that series. The next 2 books I will briefly mention I read recently in a vlog over the last weekend of February, which was A Fake Girlfriend for Chinese New Year by Jackie Lau and The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. Both of those are in the vlog, which I'll link up in the cards and down in the description, so you should go check that vlog out for my full thoughts. But basically, A Fake Girlfriend for Chinese New Year is a cutesy novella, very Hallmark, where it is like fake dating and friends to lovers, and it's just sex, but of course there's feelings involved, and it is involves like a secret pining, and it was really cute. So I read that for the Romance Sparks Joy book club, and I liked it, but didn't love it. Gave it 3.5 stars. The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon was a full-length contemporary novel. It's pretty new, and I like this one quite a bit. We follow Shay and Dominic, who have to pretend to be exes to host a radio show together, and where they're giving like advice about dating and why they broke up and blah blah blah. So both of those books involve like a fake relationship, and both of them involve male Asian leads. So yeah, I actually really enjoyed the X Talk. I give it 4.5 stars and would highly recommend you read it. It is the Sugar and Spice book club pick for February, and the book club discussion will be March 6th. So I'm really looking forward to our discussion about it, because it seems like it's gotten kind of mixed results so far through the Discord. Two left. I listened to Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. This is the first book in her Hoops series. Kennedy Ryan has been recommended to me a bunch of times, but this was my first of her books. There are a ton of trigger warnings for this book, so I definitely recommend you check those out. I linked as many as wrote as many as I could think of in my Goodreads review. I'll leave that link down below. But basically, we follow Iris and August, and it's like a little insta-love-y. And for me, this book was really predictable in its plot. But basically, the two of them meet, but it's not meant to be, because she has a boyfriend, and it's just sort of like a missed connection opportunity. So this book has a lot of trigger warnings, like I said, for abusive relationships and domestic violence. And so Iris has to kind of go through that, but it is a romance and does end in a happily ever after, or happy for now. But it's a very heavy read. And so I definitely feel like you need to be in the right headspace and heart space. I really enjoyed Kennedy Ryan's writing. I felt like there was a number of moments where I felt like I knew exactly what she was saying, and there was just a really well-written phrase. And so I want to read more by Kennedy Ryan, but I definitely am going to have to, I didn't realize quite how heavy Long Shot was before I started it. So I want to be aware of that before I dive into any more of her books. And the last book is the only book I had physically, and I don't even have it in here with me. The last book I finished in February, in the last day of February, I read Bingo Love by T. Franklin. This is a graphic novel. It was recommended, I can't remember who recommended it, but I saw it recommended for the Black Author Readathon. It is a graphic novel. It is an LGBTQIAP+ story, and we follow our two main characters. Her real name's not Elle, but that's what she's called throughout the book. Oh, Hazel and Mari. And the two meet in the 60s as teenagers, and they fall in love. They're, two women cannot be together in the 60s, and so they are yanked apart and kind of grow up and live the rest of their not the rest of their lives, but live the next 40 plus years kind of going their own directions, but never being fully satisfied. And then, this book is about how they kind of meet up again accidentally. Fate brings them back together as a second chance romance in their, 50s or 60s. And so they kind of have to decide whether or not they want to give love another chance and what that means for their current families. And it was a really lovely story. I felt like it was too much to put in this graphic novel. We cover 60 years in this graphic novel. So I personally would have been a little bit more interested if it had been either 3 times as long or 5 times as long, or if it had been a couple different installments where we got to see each of them, but more in depth in their lives. But I mean, I did think it was cute, and that ending definitely got to me. I turned the last couple pages and was really tearing up. So I really enjoyed Bingo Love. I just wish I would have gotten more from it. And So yeah, I ultimately gave it 3.5 stars. So, whew, that is the 12 books that I finished in February. I am still working on the 6th book for the Immortals After Dark Readathon. I am also working on Days of Blood and Starlight by Laini Taylor for a buddy read that I was kind of like halfway through, not even quite halfway through, at the end of February. And so that will be, so those are some of the first books I will have finished in March. I did sort of participate in the Black Author Readathon. I didn't really like post my TBR or vlog very much during it just because I'm like not really good at that kind of thing. But I feel like I read 3 romance books by Black authors, and I also read Long Way Down by Black author, and I don't know about Madison Faye if she fits or not, but I read for sure 3 books by Black authors that are romance. And so on the graphic, I feel like Everything's Better With You pretty much only counts as the like read a novella square, but Bingo Love could count for the childhood to grown folks square. It could also count for like a realistic contemporary story, love story. It's also like a friends to lovers story. I mean, our main character kind of falls in love as soon as she meets this woman, but like they're best friends before they ever like officially declare their feelings or say that they love each other. I also feel like Bingo Love is a second chance romance. It's also a mature romance. It is also a romantic graphic novel. So Bingo Love just really checks a lot of those boxes. And then Long Shot, for me, for sure, checks the single parent romance and also checks the sports romance and checks interracial romance box. And I feel like it's a dark romance. And also all 3 of those books were new to me authors. So yeah, I didn't like do amazing or get a blackout by any means, but I really enjoyed participating and making sure that I prioritized reading some Black romance authors. So I'm happy to participate again, even when it's not Black History Month. So yeah, that was my February. I feel like I did really well finishing 12 books, and I definitely spent a fair bit of time talking on this video. So don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have read any of these books or if you have recommendations for any of these authors' other works that I maybe haven't read, I definitely want to check out more by Sarina, Bowen, and Elle Kennedy. I felt like they were a great duo. And I also would like to read more of Jackie Lau's backlist. I did appreciate A Fake Girlfriend for Chinese New Year. I feel like I would have liked it a little better if I had read the other novellas in that series, but I think she has a decent backlist. And I also really, really enjoyed Kennedy Ryan's writing style. And so when I'm in the right headspace, I will try to look up another one of her books that is also as highly rated as Long Shot. So recommendations, please. What was a Black romance author that you read during Black History Month or one of your favorites? I would love recommendations. Leave those down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.